I'm joined by Arnaud Debac, ICRC's head of delegation in Myanmar. He's now based in Yangon. Arnaud, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us about the latest situation with the aftermath of the earthquake.
Difficult situation, both economically and given the active conflict. People are sleeping in the street. People are trying to access medical care, but the buildings are damaged as well. So hospital and physical and primary healthcare center cannot be used for now. So we have sent already some reinforcement from Yangon together with the National Society of the Myanmar Red Cross to support the initial efforts. We've seen the Chinese response, including the search and rescue teams that are still active. In the first few days, we hope to find more survivors, and also the support given by the Chinese Red Cross Society that is integrated in the general effort.
So what kind of materials and supplies are lacking at this moment?
Access to safe drinking water is a priority. As electricity is down, the water pumping system is not working, so the treatment of the water is not happening. Temperatures are very high. We're reaching the hot season up to 40 degrees Celsius. I think weapon wounded support for all people injured during the earthquake, and health in general would be the second one, and the third is support for livelihood and people who cannot access their homes and their kitchens, just to keep having food and a way of sleeping in a safe manner.
Who are now the key factors doing the planning, not only for rescue and search operations or for general relief operations, but also for the overall plan for today and the next few days? As you know, while the search and rescue operation ongoing, we need to prepare for the next stage of hygiene and a lot of other different issues.
Yes, I think that's a combined effort with the Myanmar authority and the support from the humanitarian community with different mechanisms of coordination. At the International Committee of the Red Cross, I work with the Myanmar Red Cross Society on the coordinated response from all the National Society of Red Cross, including the Chinese, but also from neighboring country or from further away. Yeah. And that's a coordination for a large aspect of the response today. And as you mentioned rightly, on the long term, because livelihood issues, reconstructions, access to safe buildings for health care is a challenge for the months and years to come.
Tell me more about how much support these teams coming from these countries could be of on the front line. And have you been personally in touch, for example, with the Chinese side or members from the Chinese team being sent in?
Yeah, within the coordination of the Myanmar Red Cross response, we've been in contact with the Chinese Red Cross, and that's all an effort of coordination to make sure that we don't duplicate the response in some area whilst neglecting others, sometimes because they're harder to reach or more complex. Some aspects are really about the rescue, search and rescue, and making sure the same areas are not covered by different players. So it's really, sharing the priorities and where the response can be more effective. And it's also looking at the next phase, maybe from tomorrow, next week, just the other emergency response. It's practically who can provide the safe drinking water, who can help with the shelter for the population displaced. And that's the type of discussions we have to be the most effective for the Myanmar population.
Given your rich knowledge operating under crisis, what do you see is the most important thing that all need to be aware of at this moment?
The first few days, there is a very strong mobilization of different players and a lot of support. That lasts for a few weeks, but then it's harder to mobilize for the longer term support. So I think this is important that we all keep in mind that past the emergency, there is consequences for the population, for the families, for the communities that will last for many months and that will require international support as well.
the supply that you're providing right now, where are they coming from? Are they in the WFP storage, or are you trying to buy ASAP?
So fortunately, we have stocks in country that we can immediately release. As this crisis, as this response goes on, we will start to procure locally, again, using WFP's buying power as a means of stimulating the market and the economy. If there's anything that we need beyond, we can go internationally, but because also we'll be doing the cash distribution, that allows people to buy in the local markets.
Right. Well, the cash distribution is another thing. It can be tricky from time to time given the lack of order on the ground. Having said that, though, we understand earlier WFP, out of very complicated reasons, had to cut the aid to Myanmar. But now with the crisis, you have to restart it. Tell us, how is this transition going?
So this is a country that's been in civil war for the last 4 years. Over 19 million people have humanitarian needs and requirements. We estimate 15 million people were acutely hungry. A further 3.5 million people were internally displaced. So that was the setting before the crisis. This shock makes those needs increase even further. What WFP will be doing is reaching out, undertaking assessments, determining what the needs are. We won't provide all of the support. Other agencies, other actors will provide support with regards to shelter, health, water and sanitation. WFP will lead on the logistics capacity, trying to ensure that the response is coordinated and that there is the warehousing and the trucking capacity that is required. It really will require an all-together approach if we're going to meet the needs of the people who have been affected by the earthquake.
Right. We understand there are countries that are already sending in their research and their rescue operations. For example, Myanmar's neighbor, China, India, Thailand, just to name a few. Now, how is the UN system, which is an international system, working also with some of the bilateral efforts, as we mentioned earlier?
So I think the teams that you've mentioned have come in specifically to focus on the search and rescue.
Yes, indeed.
The window of opportunity to recover people who have been trapped is relatively short.
Yeah.
I expect that quickly the UN and other international actors will move more to the recovery phase. And this is where we will be looking for a joined up approach and where we must have additional international funding if we're going to be successful.
Yeah, we understand, Michael, that the UN now is going through quite a challenging period of time with some of the important players in the international system reluctant to participate. So how do you and your colleagues try to bring everything together, and try to make it work?
We were in the process of downsizing our operation because of a lack of funding. Now, very quickly, we need to upscale. So we can only do that with funding. And ideally, we get funding for our previous operations and this additional requirement. Without that, we will struggle. That's the honest truth. We will struggle if we do not get the support. We will talk to all governments, those who have traditionally supported the World Food Programme, and many new governments, including the likes of China, who could be willing to support both Myanmar and the World Food Programme in Myanmar.
Yeah. How would you see the scale of devastation this earthquake has caused to a country as unique as Myanmar?
So I think the big challenge, of course, is the levels of vulnerability that were pre-existing. The fact that the economy and that many of the people were already struggling severely because of this long period of conflict. I'm worried about what I will see tomorrow. I'm concerned just the level of devastation. Of course, it's then meeting the people who have been directly impacted. And when you hear their stories, when you understand what they have been through, it is heart-wrenching, but it really does also fortify us to respond even more so.
Michael Dunford, Representative and Country Director of World Food Program in Myanmar. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.